Yes, here in the studios at SiriusXM, Leaves of Green from Tales from Topographic Oceans. We'll be right back after this break.
You're listening to an Artist Confidential 106. Now, back to your host, David Fricke.
Welcome again to our SiriusXM listeners, our very lucky studio audience, the crowd out on Facebook Live. You are listening to SiriusXM Volume, an Artist Confidential with, yes, we have Jeff Downs, John Davidson, Steve Howe, Alan White, Billy Sherwood, all here. And actually, in that last song, Leaves of Green, there was a line in there, and I was listening back to it this morning on the entire side 3. Where does reason stop and killing just take over? And I was thinking, that was a record made in 1973. A line like that is so resonant now. You wonder, how far have we come as a planet and a society that we still have to ask ourselves a question like that? And it sort of makes you wonder, do you feel that this music, these records, as you perform them, they still have the power to inform and inspire and actually change people? Because I'm sure that was so much a part of the original impulse.
Well, Joni Mitchell was singing about spots on the apples in 1970 on the Yellow Taxi, and we're still spraying fields with pesticides that actually kill people. So, we asked that question in side 3 about Leaves of Green, where does reason stop and killing just take over? Does a lamb cry out before we shoot it dead? Because at the time there was a lot of, growth of vegetarianism in the group. But when you ask yourself, why doesn't it make a difference? I think the question should be, why doesn't a lot of pressure from artists make sufficient difference? Like Band-Aid was supposed to do. It was supposed to stop, hunger. All these things we try in earnest to create change, but it's so slow, and sometimes it doesn't change enough.
Yeah, I think it's also very incremental, though, because when you think of the way things change, and yes, we have action and reaction, and you can just pick up a newspaper and see that now. But I just feel that records like this, records that inspire, whether it's Bob Dylan or Patti Smith or Emerson, Lake and Poem or King Crimson, yourselves, all across the spectrum, people turn to music because they really need it. And I think that, this audience here, the people that come to see you at your shows, on the Cruise to the Edge, you're really reaching people on a very fundamental, visceral, and emotional level. Do you, when you're writing now, when you're trying to come up with new songs, new material, what is it you're trying to get across? Because you've been working at it for so long. Clearly, you have ideas and dreams. Do you feel that they're still getting across? Can you actually hear it and feel it out there?
Hope.
Yes.
Hope is the main thing. Exactly. Yeah, a song like Believe Again that was on Heaven and Earth that opens the album, and it just touches exactly on that, David. You're exactly right. That there's a innate potential in every one of us that we can move this earth in the way that we want. We can manifest it if we collectively focus. And that love can be a guiding force. And that, of course, sounds cliche. Okay, I admit it. I can be cliche sometimes, but it's nonetheless true.
Well, that's the thing about cliches. They all have a kernel of truth in them. That's how they become cliches.
Thank you.
Like hippies, back in '67. We were all hoping that love was really going to change the world. It temporarily kind of shook the world, if you look, with the whole concept of that. But
John Lennon, Give Peace a Chance.
That's right.
Absolutely.
There are all these messages in a lot of music that people have given over the years. But as Steve said, maybe the movement is slow, and the progress is slow in that respect.
Yeah, I guess the thought is still there. It's built in, and if you persevere with that, eventually, hopefully, it'll get through. But we got a lot of barriers right now.
But you were actually playing with John Lennon at a time when he was writing Imagine.
Yeah, I started with Imagine, all that kind of stuff. So what a song, Imagine.
Yeah,
and
what a
now
song.
we're still here.
Brilliant.
And but that song also recycles around. I remember, I live in New York at 9/11. That song was so profoundly important to people that you realize that, you walk through strawberry fields up in Central Park.
It was a very proud thing in my life to be part of that. And I got to know John, and he was really determined.
If governments were made up of musicians,
Things would be a lot simpler and a lot smarter.
of course, I don't want that job.
It's the problem. Musicians don't want the job, but you're the guys who can actually do it. Jeff, I'm curious. You know, how do you look at a record like Drama now? Because that record, when it arrived, I remember being a little perplexed by it, and yet finding that in a lot of ways it was really almost like a blueprint for much of what happened with Yes throughout the 80s. And I would actually even think like, 90125 is almost like not a logical progression, but that was an interesting first step at a very pivotal time of change.
Yeah.
I think it still stands up as a great album, and I'm still very proud of it. And I think that, as you pointed out, it was very much a kind of a stepping stone from one era to the next, you know, from the 70s Yes to the 80s Yes, and the Drama was this sort of turning point in Yes's career. And yeah, I mean, when we first came out with it, there were a lot of eyebrows raised because, of course, with John Anderson being no longer the singer, that was a big thing for the Divine Yes troupe to suddenly take in, and also, I think from my standpoint, it wasn't so critical because Yes had had 3 keyboard players before me, so it wasn't. The focus was more on Trevor Horn, and you know, he did get a lot of stick for it. But I think when people heard the album and discovered how Yes was moving forward, moving into a different genre almost, but still retaining that sound, that's when people thought, well, actually, you know, I can see what they're doing here. You know, I can see that they're moving through another decade. And I think the beauty of Yes music is that's something that they've always done, is that as the decades have gone past, there's been developments, and you know, lots of wonderful musicians come on board and put their stamp on the Yes brand, if you like. So
well, quite a lot happened at that time, of course, because Trevor became a producer and then produced, you know, Yes, after being a singer. But then the other amazing thing,
it's
that
such an
people
incestuous
forget,
arrangement you got going here.
But having just been playing Drama, and you realise his lyrical strengths were incredible, and he was the key lyricist there. I mean, Chris and I helped a lot, but I mean, he really did come with some great stories, and that happened again in Fly From Here. So, in fact, Trevor's role in the group is multifaceted, if you like, and it doesn't stop growing in a way. It's a very, you know, but that's the same with a lot of our relationships with our fellow musicians.
Yeah, I think that the lyrics became a lot more edgy and started to address technology and all that kind of stuff that I'd obviously been involved in, Trevor, the Bugle stuff. So we brought that, I suppose, that equation in many
The Machine
ways.
Messiah.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I just remember 3 of us, you know, Steve, myself, and Chris, playing away like that. And we said, Trevor Horn came into the room and he said, I've been listening to you guys. We've got a song for you guys. And I went, oh, okay. Why don't you play it? And then we jumped into that song. And then all of a sudden you guys had your equipment in the room. And it took off from there. And it was pretty amazing.
Was there any ever discussion about Trevor's glasses?
Only that Dylan's, somebody said today Dylan looked like a Bugle. My son, Dylan, who's additional drums. Trevor. You know, Trevor was a big talent. Is a big talent, and
lyrically, it was unbelievable. I was going, "But I am a camera," and I'm going, "Okay, I can get along with this," but it worked.
Well, when you've been doing entire albums in shows over the last few years, Close to the Edge, Fragile, you did Drama, I guess, on a recent run. And from what I understand, you also did sides 1 and 4 of Tales from Topographic Oceans. How do you decide which of the 2 sides to do?
Well,
how do you cut a record like that in half?
I'd just like to mention that John told me that, you know, Tales was the first album he got into, but actually The Remembering was one of your favourite sides.
Absolutely.
And, you know, we had been thinking about that one as well, but we decided, it was an idea that was a little bit post, about a year or so back when we've been trying to decide, maybe we could just play 1 and 4. And it was a bit kind of, no, maybe we can't do that. Play it all or nothing. But then we realized that 1 and 4 are the bookends of the whole album. And with John and I doing what we did earlier, The Leaves Are Green, kind of touch on 3 as well. But eventually we'd love to play just 2, So Tales is so special that you can take, the big chunks of it and merge it in different ways. And as yet, we haven't played it all. But.
When I got the email with the set list and it said Ritual, I thought, I'm not going to say anything so that the set list doesn't change.
Well, with all this tales of tales from Topographic Oceans, let's play something actually a lot shorter. This will be a Steve Howe showcase, and let's point out that the word "the" is not in the title. This is Clap.